So welcome everybody to this Global CE COVID Day. In response to WHO's request, we've organized a special global event to share clinical engineering experiences related to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a rapidly changing situation, and our colleagues on the front line are experiencing many current challenges. This event is driven by conversations with IFMBE Clinical Engineering Division, the World Health Organization, and international colleagues who are searching for practical solutions during these times. This is Tom Judd, Chair of IFMBE CED. Immediately, we want to recognize and thank our colleagues. Like many people around the world, men and women who keep the militaries going and keep other government going, the massive community of biomedical equipment technicians, clinical engineers, health technology managers, and others are often working quietly on the front lines from 24/7 in hospitals to ensure patients, physicians, nurses, and other staff keep these devices possibly saving lives and not sitting on shelves. So we really want to thank our community for the work they do every day. Thank you so much. I want to read a few words from our colleague, Adriana Velazquez of WHO. She's going to join us after a while here. And there she is. So Adriana, take it away. Just some opening comments, if you would, Adriana.
Oh my God. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the organizers to set this very important meeting. I moved everything to try to be with you today, and I achieved it. So I just was sending a message to Tom that I could join. I think this is a very important times for all of us, in which we are all challenged to really face this horrible pandemic that is arriving all over the world. It's hitting high income, low income, middle income countries, and it's coming to the poorest countries soon. So we request that we all, as a community of clinical engineers, will help every healthcare workforce in the world. And it is on us to make sure that the technology that will be in every setting will be safe, will be affordable, will be available. We can train the people there. We can ensure that the technology is matching the needs of the people, and that we make the best out of it, because it's huge investments, and that we're sure that patients can get better. So it's important that our role is increased, and that we become visible to our healthcare systems to say, hey, we are here. We are clinical engineers. We can help the world. We can help, we can help the world. We can help our healthcare system, but we need to convey a clear messages on what is the better technology to do what, to support all clinical management people, to support doctors and nurses, but also to support the procurement, how to select the equipment. We're not there just to do maintenance. Those days are gone. We are here to help decide what is the best technology that our countries need, that our hospitals need, that our patients need. So the main idea is we can take all this list of medical devices that we are placing in WHO as priority medical devices for COVID, that we can select each of you to do their own settings, to coordinate with the regulatory authorities, and to ensure that hospitals buy the best equipment. There's also much important is about the training, the installation, and the maintenance. There are donations that are coming. There is much equipment that is coming that we don't know what regulatory authority it was approved from. So it is a huge important role. The other thing that we're having is the use of the technology. There are new local production. There are new innovative ways of using technologies, like the type of the ventilators and local manufacturing. We as clinical engineers need to have a clear voice and be able to review the effectiveness and the quality and safety of all these innovative technologies to make sure that we're not damaging patients. Remember, first do not harm, then we can see. So it is very important that we are sure that those devices that are to our countries, to our ministers of health, they are assessed to make sure that they are good and effective. Note that there are many issues on oxygen. Oxygen is the only medicine we know for this disease. It's working. So we need to ensure that, that oxygen is available, that ventilators, invasive, non-invasive, and all kinds of treatment are available. Sterilization is available, and all those things. That protective equipment, we have a role to play in protective equipment. We're now having innovation on how to re-sterilize or not N95. So we have a role to play there too. And then we have a role to play on the in vitro diagnostics. As you know, the whole world is talking about there are no tests, or there are tests, or you need to test. Please know that the tests are not available. There are no commercially available tests that have been approved by all regulatory authorities. These are based on PCR. WHO just approved 2 of them, but they require big machines, big process, and most of them are like swab tests that you have to take, and then maybe 24 hours later or so you can have them. So it is very important that we also see all the laboratory. We as clinical engineers should be dealing with laboratory. We are also seeing on imaging. So we see that the CT really helps detect COVID. So we're working into that too. So we really need to see everything. And as clinical engineers, we have the competencies to do it. We have the competencies to select the right equipment. We have the competency, and we were trained for this. So let's get the best out of us to help the world. Thank you very much.
Yadin, your words, sir.
Thank you. This is a major event for us, and I want to make the best out of it so everybody will gain knowledge and share experience. So the purpose of the day, the Global Clinical Engineering COVID-19 Day, is to bring you snippets of practices and solutions to challenges we are facing during these disruptive times. My name is Yadin David, and I'm happy to be part of this faculty. We assemble representation from the epicenter in China all the way to Italy, Spain, Africa, Middle East, USA, Brazil, and make sure that we'll have time to question and answer. I'm going to be keeping the time and hold the faculty to the timeline. From allocation of facility to manufacturing of rapid equipment like ventilators and testing kits, to the design of new solutions and trying to keep up with changing standards. Every minute of the day, there is something different disrupting our practice. But you are the heroes. You are the silent heroes. And I want to thank, on behalf of IFMBE Clinical Engineering Division and myself personally, to everything you do every day, and especially during this period. Part of what we do is helping each other, and by that we are carrying our mission of improving care and accessibility around the world. So today, please engage, send us your questions on the button of Q&A at the bottom of the screen. When you press on that, you will have opportunity to send your questions directly to the faculty, just like Jonathan did minutes ago. And the faculty, Riyadh, already responding that he will include that in his presentation. And finally, I would like to tell you that the Journal of Clinical Engineering, Global Journal of Clinical Engineering, has published editorial 2 weeks ago where the appreciation for all the silent heroes of the healthcare delivery system named clinical engineering professionals are being celebrated, and today we're continuing with that. Finally, I would to express my thanks to Callie Roy, who endlessly work up to make this day a success. And with that, let's go ahead and move all the way around the world where it's the middle of the night to Li Bin in China.
Yadin, we're going to go with Elliot, I thought, first here.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay.
Good morning. We'll come to Libin very shortly. I'll go, if I could have the screen, I'm going to share some information with everyone, and we'll move quickly to Libin.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, hello. I'm just waiting to get permission to share the screen.
Okay, can you share my screen?
No, Libin, I'm trying to share my screen first, and as soon as I can, and when I'm done, you'll share yours.
Okay.
Kelly Roy or Yadin, I need access to the screen share, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, friends, honored to be with you today. I want to share with you an initiative that we started about 2 weeks ago, and it is a weekday update with information about new sources of information that are considered to be relevant and reasonably trustworthy. We've gone through thousands of notices and sources to provide you each day with new information. I'll give you a quick idea of where we source these. We have about 100-person global WhatsApp community that shares information all day long, hundreds of sharings in many different languages about what's going on in the different communities. The information we post is often open libraries that have never been available to our community. Most of the paywalls around the globe from the most prestigious organizations in the world, Lancet, BMJ, and others, are now available for all of us to use. There are many global communities like the European radiologists who have created large repositories of information that is critically important to share. Our colleagues at the World Health Organization are maintaining multiple sites with information about coronavirus. A particularly useful one is the Mythbusters one, because there's an awful lot of very bad information being circulated, some of which can actually harm or kill people. We're also sharing updates that have enormous potential consequences, such as devices that can reprocess, approved devices that can reprocess disposable PPE like masks. Our postings are in many languages. So we have contributors. We have a panel of about 6 co-editors contributing and screening materials in about 6 different languages. And we continue to provide access and information to that. We're also maintaining community social networking sites for all of you and us to collaborate. Those are posted at the bottom of our daily list, so you're welcome to go there. It is free to subscribe, and I will put in the box after I'm done, I'll put all of these links so you will have them. There are many resources for dashboards that we are tracking. I will share all of these with you. There are some incredibly powerful resources that get down into individual states and provinces. We maintain at our IFMBE CED webpage a hotspot for all of the COVID-19 activities, and we are recapturing and reorganizing all of the work that we're posting on our Hacking Coronavirus weekday update to that site. On my own LinkedIn page, I provide a lot of information about new activities and others that I find relevant. And again, please feel free to use this link. I will send it to you. Share it with colleagues. We are glad to have this information shared. It provides everyone access to really important information that can help the coronavirus COVID-19 battle in each of our countries. Let me yield the floor back to Yadin and Libin next.
Thank you, Elliot. Let's jump immediately to China and Libin.
Okay. Can you share the screen?
Yes. We see it.
Yeah. Hello, I'm
Yes.
Liping from the Shanghai.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will share some practice in the Shanghai clinical engineer anti the COVID-19. The first, the PPE is a very important measure to defect the hospital infection. In the beginning of the epidemic, a lot of the hospitals in China, especially in the Wuhan, there is in the SOS for the PPE. For example, on January 24, Wuhan Union Hospitals make the notice seeking for the protection materials. So it's so important for the PPE. And also it's very important for the CE. Important role of CE is to find the right PPE. At the first 2 week, a lot of the hospital is short of the PPE. We still to find a lot of the import, the PPE product, but it's very important to find the different area in the hospital should use the different kind of the PPE. For example, some area should use the N95. Some is just to use a surgical mask. That's very important. But even in the emerging case, we need to understand the performance of the various PPE. For example, for the N95 mask is sealed and the aerofilage rate is over 95, but KN95 is in China, it's another standard, but it's sealed, but it's not protection against the blood and the body fluids bleach. So it cannot be used in the ICU, but we have another surgical mask. The surgical mask, the filter, the aerosol filter rate is about 30, not 95, but the outermost layer has the protection against the blood and the body fluid. So in the emerging case, if we without an N95 mask, we can use the KN95 together with the mask of the surgical mask together. So okay, instead of this N95, that's what we do in the first 2 weeks. And also another is for some protective clothes. As we know, in the hospital use, we need to use a zipper plug of, this is a DuPont protective clothing. They have a splicing sealed in these clothes. But at the most emergency time, we have no this kind of clothes. We just get this kind of protective clothes. So we have decided to make some change, to make some stressing, to find each of these seal. We have tried to find some suitable single side tape and to make it on this clothes. And also made some ball and kiddo with common material, and together make it better protection. That's what we made for this emergency made. This modified protective clothes is tested by the Shanghai Equipment Testing Institute. All the filter rate is passed. So it can be used in the ICU. The last case I show you is in the beginning of the isolation. The hospital needed many isolation bed, but originally hospital have no such much more favor outpatient isolation ward. So we have set up a new building. It's like this one, the new building. Use 28 containers to assemble the 2-story building. This new favor clinical observation institute is most favors in the two-story building. It's equipped with special CT and DR examination. And the second floor is a favor patient ward, which has 10 isolation bed, 10 isolation room, and 14 beds in total. It has become the standardized favor clinical isolation Shanghai version. And also it can do the registration, laboratory examination, inspection, drug taking, treatment, and isolation in the one area. This is a new building. This is the original building. In the first floor, we have as Adriana said, the CT scanner is very important. In this room, we equipped with one CT scanner and one DR systems. Together, we only take the 1 week to make the machine room and 2 days to make the CT and the DR installation. And in the second floor, we have the isolation ward. This is the isolation ward. We totally have 10 isolation room, and someone is 1 bed. Some room is two bed. This is doctor's road. Doctor's road. The outside road is for the patient. On the second floor, the pyramid of the isolation ward is a patient corridor. And also, this isolation ward has an independent doctor and the patient access. It's divided into the clean area is a green, and the semi-polluted area is a blue, is a yellow, and the red area is a polluted area. And also in this isolation equipment ward, have medical equipment in this isolation ward, including the fresh air systems, independent air conditioner, and independent battle equipment, bell, and also the patient monitors, and also defibrillator, and also in the ventilators. And also this for the patient bed, we have a washroom inside, and also have emergency button for the case. And also we have very special windows. This carrier bag cabin, from which side the patient, the doctor, the patient's food and medicine can be delivered. And also in this window, the ultraviolet system is delivered. The cabin is used the disinfection to avoid infections. And also we make some suggestions for the favor outpatient medical equipment configuration for the favor clinicals, including the basic diagnosis and the treatment, and also including inspection and the inspection equipment, including blood analysis, cranial protein analysis,
Lee, 1 minute, Lee.
Okay, yes, and also equipment, image equipment, mobile CT, and also include the other DR systems, life support device, and the disinfection equipment. And also including some the emergency basic rescue equipment, protective equipment, and also including the disinfection supplies. A lot of things to equipment. And also we have suggestions for the ward, isolation ward facilities, for the equipment bed, transfer window, and the video monitors, and access control systems for the safety, and also life support device and sterilization equipment. That's all. Together, we can make it better. Thank you.
You're right. Thank you, Lee. Excellent presentation with a lot of information, and we'll open that to question on the question and answer button at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
We move next to Italy, to Umberto Nocco, and it's yours, Umberto. Take it.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you,
thank you.
everybody. Thank you for having me on this webinar. I'm very pleased to share a little bit of experience we had around here. We were the first highly affected nations outside China before the outbreak spread more or less all over the world. Basically, we had to assess a kind of issues, a certain number of issues that we figured out with the ongoing of the outbreak. To be truly honest, must admit that we weren't really prepared, and we were looking at China rather in a strange mode, because we actually weren't understanding very well what they were doing with these hospitals being built and stuff. And then we had this huge wave coming on to us, and we needed to react really, really fast. First of all, the first issue was to assess different patient clinical needs. Li Bing has said a lot about devices and everything you need to make all these patients run and assist them. And we had to figure out how many we needed and where they were needed, because in the first place, patients were assessed in the ERs and were sent more or less directly to the intensive care units, and then we had to figure out a way to treat them, especially if they weren't so critical to go into intensive care units. This proposed us with a huge hill to climb, because we weren't, we had to face a sort of just-in-time machine availability, especially on the ICU devices, such as ventilators, CPA system for pressure, high pressure and high flow systems, monitoring systems, and all the things you need to build up an ICU bed. Besides of this, we had to figure out where to put these beds, and many hospitals had the chance to have some spare spaces that they could be put up and prepared as ICUs, while others had to switch to cases and move the patients to other wards and to other areas of the hospital, which were to be updated to host less or more critical patients, rather than the ones they used to have. This introduced a lot of organizational issues, because, of course, as I said, we had to convert wards to host infected patients, but we had to also to think again all the protocols and all the movements of personnel and patients, as Li Bing showed before. They had two different corridors for patients and for clinicians. In many cases, we didn't have the chance to do that, so we had to sort of invent, come up with new solutions, and of course, we had to acquire all kinds of protection devices and protection vests and clothings and stuff like that. Of course, this ended up in a big problem in acquiring devices. We figured out that the market is quite, especially in Italy, is quite late in providing new devices to the hospitals, although because we were almost asking them today for tomorrow, and this was a very big deal. We had major incomes of new devices such as ventilators and stuff coming from China, of course, which is probably one of the fastest producing markets. And then we experienced a sort of closures among other nations throughout Europe. Many times we are dependent. For example, most of our devices come from Germany. When the outbreak started over in Germany, we figured out that we had less availability of devices produced in Germany and being sent abroad to other countries, even throughout Europe, especially Italy. One last thing I would like to say is we also are experiencing a kind of a sort of philosophical, but not really philosophical issue we're running. We have the problem of acquiring a lot of devices. I'm talking about China, but we have also devices such as ventilators coming from Russia, but also coming from the United States that don't have a CE mark on them. And as you may know, if you should put some medical devices in use in Italy, they should have a CE mark. And so we're trying also as an association here in Italy, in the Italian Association of Clinical Engineers, we're trying to figure out a way to sort of have a sort of backdoor to the CE mark and have protocols and have ways of defining how devices can be safe and efficient in the same way we are granted with a CE mark stapled on the device, so that we could put into use also devices and ventilators and all kinds of machinery that can come from different markets, maybe outside Europe, or probably they weren't intended to be sold in a European market, which is another way of saying this. Last but not least, then I'm finished really. There's, of course, we had to try to think about also how our biomeds and our clinical engineers are moving throughout the wards and throughout the hospitals, because we don't want to get infected. That's obvious, but still we need to go into ICUs and into critical areas to work on machines and to assess all the devices for installation, for maintenance and stuff like that. So we need to figure out protocols to have a safe access, which is not just safe, meaning in the way you assess the ICUs, the way you're dressed, the way you move around the ICUs, but also how many times you access the ICUs. There are many things that can be done by the personnel inside the ICUs without requiring a biomed or a clinical engineer being there all the time. But this is some sort of educational issue you have to put on the people who work inside the hospitals.
Thank you.
Thank you
Umberto.
so much, Umberto.
You're
And
welcome.
we're going to go on to our colleague, Dr. Jatinder Sharma over in India. Jatinder?
And from inside the hospital, we're jumping to the other side of the industry.
Right, absolutely. Yadin and Tom, a nice meeting all of you on a great day during a tough time. So just three things from India. My colleague from Italy mentioned something about CE mark and standards, the safety of equipment that all of us are buying in governments. I think that's something that the governments, despite having specifications from Adriana in late March, are still confused about, because the safety standards around ventilation has not yet been advertised well within the procurement agencies. Whether it is IEC standards of 1-1, 1-2 and 2-12, or it is a biocompatibility standard of tubing. The safety standards is not well known yet, which is, and in every country there is a lot of innovations around ventilator that's happening right now. And in the name of ventilator, whatever we innovate, that needs to comply with safety standards and correct specs. That's extremely important, which we have facilitated the governments here. Two is the Indian Biomedical Skill Council was, through its accreditation program, lucky to catch hold of every single biomed engineer and biomed technician who is a ventilator specialist, create a database from across the country with their phone numbers and cities, and circulate it to all the associations and clinical practitioners, so that these guys who actually maintain and repair a ventilator are known. And three, which is a more of an infrastructure boost, the AMTZ, which I represent as its CEO, I was able to convince the World Bank to provide financial support to set up large-scale assemblies through a government sponsorship program. And we have been able to set up 6 ventilator manufacturing assemblies capable of producing about 6,000 ventilators a month at AMTZ, which all of you have visited during the Global Forum, and 3 diagnostic kit manufacturing assembly lines. In fact, we started our diagnostic kit assembly of 2,000 kits per day yesterday, and we are going up to 40,000 kits per day in about 10 days. So if I were to summarize what we have done is taking care of standards and specs, which is one point of a triangle, making sure that we have record of every single biomed engineer who specializes in ventilator or can repair ventilator, maintain it, consolidating that list with the cities and their contact details. That's number 2, point 2 of the triangle. And the third point of the triangle is setting up very fast, large-scale manufacturing facilities at AMTZ, simply because we have all the EMI, EMC, and ASTM and biomaterial testing lab, accelerated aging centers, and ready factory space to ensure that we are not only able to take care of national demand, but in about 30 to 45 days are able to come to the service of our global community. Thank you very much. We can't hear you, Yadin. Sorry.
Thank you for staying up in the middle of the night. Good view from the other side of the industry, outside the hospitals. Important to know and to connect. We move next to the Middle East, to Beirut, Lebanon, to a friend, Riyad Farah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Yadin. Thank you, Tom, Kaliroy. Thank you for having me. Back to the hospital line, Frontline, just like our friend Umberto, just sharing some information from the practical hospital expertise and the lessons that we learned and the challenges that we faced. Definitely working with COVID patient has changed how the hospital used to service. Definitely COVID has changed our lives as well.
Riyad, show your video of yourself if you can. If not, keep going, thanks.
I'm sorry, Tom, I don't have a camera.
No problem, keep going, brother.
All right, thanks. Well, unlucky, we in Lebanon, we had a financial crisis a couple of months before the corona, so it added up to the problem with the shortages of supplies, and that was very, very tough on the hospitals on all fronts. For the lessons learned, well, there are some points regarding the hospital leadership and decision-making. Another lesson was in the training and the importance of training. And the third lesson was on the stock and availability of enough stock. Definitely clinical engineers should participate in decision-making process, not only just repairing the equipment like Adriana said. The hospital leadership must be ready and be flexible to adapt fast to a crisis, because the crisis shall not wait for anyone to get ready. We changed how the hospital works day by day. We stopped surgeries.
Can I call you later?
We closed all entrances except few, just control them with non-contact thermometers, just to, as a frontline, clean everybody, put face masks. We closed the dining rooms, dining areas, and delivered food to the working force. We closed all outside outpatient clinics so that to reduce cross-contamination. And we reduced the unnecessary staff to half on 2 rotations. The second point was the importance of the drills and the training. Although we had everything ready in documentation and everybody was planned ahead of time, yet the training and drill is very important. We had the incident command center, just like what WHO recommendations for emergency preparedness. And we had one contact person for the media. And the normal decision-making process has shifted from the normal process which was used to be done with the executive committee in the hospital, to the ICG. This offered a faster decision process. We had the representative from the medical officer, safety officer, administrative and finance, and clinical engineering. And it was very important how we relay information to each other, because honestly, information, there is always an issue with communication somewhere. And the importance of drawing the responsibilities was so crucial, because when the crisis arrives, responsibilities try to fly from one person to the other. Practically on the ground, things must be very well prepared and training done on it. We had some protocols preset, and everything was clear for the reception, triage, screening, admission, treatment, isolation, and discharge. But unfortunately, at the beginning, we were bombarded with contradictory information, and the social media helped a lot with the contradictory information. For example, the use of masks in areas, supporting areas, not in direct contact with the COVID patients, and the connection of getting prepared to connect the ventilator with several patients. All of these helped, added up to the, let's say, a bit chaotic preparedness. And the third message learned is the stock. Most hospitals, if not all, they try to use the just-on-time stocking system, and they rely on the supply chain, which is okay on normal days. But we understand that just-on-time stocking system shall not work at the time of crisis, and obviously no one knows when the crisis comes. So let's ask ourselves a question. What if we increase our stock of necessary items for life-saving materials? Of course, respecting the hospital cash flow, not losing items on expiration dates, expired items. Definitely this makes us much easier and much readier. These are important things, because having stock for life safety items and parts for ventilators and life-saving equipment is crucial for the daily work.
Okay.
And for the challenges, some 3 challenges we faced was, it's very important to have a national plan, because one hospital cannot serve the whole community. It's very important so that hospital, they can work hand in hand. National plan is important. Cooperation is very important. National committee to overlook the certification of local manufacturers. Definitely we used what the WHO has issued, and IFMBE played an important role to share these valuable information. But it's very important to get prepared on the national level as well. Another challenge was the architectural readiness. Although some hospitals, they were designed on the proper standards, but nevertheless to allocate a separate building for isolation is not easy. And we always have limited spaces, especially with the hospitals that are built in big cities. And we are not always ready for the increased surge capacity due to physical location. So the coordination between doctors and administration is important, and the shortage in supplies of masks, gloves, safety items was a big challenge. I hope with this information I participated in elevating the readiness of clinical engineer all over the world.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Riyad. It's very important to make the note, Riyad, like you said, is that we need to increase our readiness next time around. You're absolutely right. Architecturally and equipment. Next, we're moving to Africa, both Central and South Africa. Meladen Poluta and Ashnafi Hussein. We'll start with Meladen. And Meladen, there are questions coming to the panel about what are the standards to manage the rapid production of variety of ventilators in small manufacturing sites. Can you address that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is a very contentious issue now because there are two national projects that have been launched, one by government departments that are finally talking to one another, and they've launched the National Ventilator Project, which it's a misnomer because it actually is focusing on CPAP. And then there's a private sector initiative, the South African Emergency Ventilator Project, which is focused on re-engineering the Penlon Nuffield 200, which is a basic, simple mechanical ventilator, which in the opinion of the project team will do the job. They've got and they brought in the state-owned enterprises, including our arms manufacturer, Denel, and they've got people that are highly skilled, but not in the medical device sector and industry. And they are planning to commence manufacture within a couple of weeks. And to your point, there's been a whole parallel discussion on the governance, the due diligence, and the regulatory oversight that needs to be provided. And to cut a long story short, my recommendation and our recommendation, sitting on both sides of the fence, has been that this is overly ambitious, that the unintended consequences haven't been properly thought through, that it's a rigorous process, and even if one complies with the minimum requirements in terms of international standards, it is still a medium-term project, talking one year conservatively, compared to something that can be rolled off production line within a month. So that's been our recommendation. The unintended consequence is that although one applauds the collective energy and application of skills from other sectors, the unintended consequence is that if, God forbid, this device is introduced in significant numbers and patients are injured as a result, there will be significant medico-legal consequences. But I think more to the point in terms of ventilation, the statistics have come in, and it's predicted that this will apply in South Africa too, that more than 50% of patients who go into ventilation actually do not make it, they pass away. So it'll only be a matter of time before the litigation lawyers get onto this, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they will convince families of loved ones who have lost their lives while on ventilation to institute a class action suit to claim against government to the effect that their loved ones passed away because a ventilator that did not pass proper due diligence in terms of regulatory compliance was used on their loved one and was responsible for their demise. So it's a very important, in fact, a vital discussion, and I applaud the work that is being done in India, and I wish that we could have that same guidance and energy and capability, but we don't, and so we are very concerned, especially since, for example, in the Western Cape, and I speak for our department, we've been able to procure 100 additional ventilators, and our critical care forum is of the opinion that we will not be able to cope with many more simply because of the staffing available.
Thank you. Very, very good answer. Thank you. Ashnafi.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Adin. Hi, everyone. I just want to focus on those 2 pointers. What are the 2 challenges, the top 3 challenges, and the lesson learned. So I think, if I have to begin from the challenges, one of the challenges in Africa, we already have a lot of problems. So one of the challenges is the health service and the infrastructure issue. It includes the supply, the service, the infrastructure, and everything. We have that problem. So that has not been solved. The second one is the way of living. The way we live together. In some areas there are migrations, in some areas there are dispersed, and most of the people are in the countryside where the health service is not available in Africa. So it's difficult for us to fight and to combat this pandemic. And the third one is the response. How are we responding to the challenge that we're facing? Some countries, they just issue state of emergency. Some just lock down the countries. And some other countries, they take their own measures. So these are the top three areas and challenges that we have been facing. And the top three lessons that we have to learn from this pandemic is, one is the emergency preparedness in Africa. It has been so poor so far. We know it from malaria, TB, HIV, and other diseases. So we have been so poor on emergency preparedness. The second one is the alerting system. The alerting system. When we say the alerting system, we don't actually know how many people have been infected in Africa, to be honest with you, because we already know from the tests that have been conducted, and the number of tests conducted are, most of them are 2,000, 3,000. The maximum that we have seen is from South Africa is more than 50, 60,000, but in other African countries, only 2,000, 3,000, not more than that. So the numbers that have been displayed on this COVID tracking system, it doesn't show the actual number of people that have been infected and that have been prone to this virus. So that's one of the problems that we have faced from the alerting system. The third lesson that we have to learn is information. Information. How can we get the right information? As have been described earlier by the other panelists, there are too many information that have been displayed now. So it's difficult for us to know which one is right, which one is not right, including the materials, the devices, how we have to use, how we have to implement it. So we have these three things that we have learned from this pandemic. I hope we can develop this discussion with question and answer. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashnafi. And people are asking, you're from Ethiopia, but you also represent, through the Working Group on African Activities, about 17 or more countries. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And next we tee up.
Tom, just
go ahead. Go ahead.
We have a question going on the chat box. However, for the faculty to answer your question, please go to the bottom of your screen where it says Q&A. Hit the Q&A and you post question will go directly to the panel. To the panelists, please visit the Q&A so you can answer questions. For example, Doug Dreps, when you're coming up, there is a question about what are you doing about PM nowadays? So please prepare to answer that.
Right, delayed PM and so forth. Yep.
Next, we're going to Claudio Meirovich from Spain.
All right. I'm not going to be talking from the hospital point of view. I'm, as you know, I'm a consultant and I'm working a little bit around. Since I'm in Spain, well, you can read in the news what we are doing and what is happening here. So I'm not going to be adding anything to that. But I think there are a few things that are important to mention that we got here in Spain, and I think it's going to be a lesson we can learn from. We could see, and this was part of the discussions in CED groups, that lots of people got interested in ventilators and the need for them, and they wanted to start building them. So lots of different groups started developing things. Some of them were already developed them for a long time. And at some point, some people said, wait, this is not something you can do just by yourself. There are standards you need to check. There were students saying, well, you know, we can do that. We are doing biomedical engineering. So at that point, I think it was really good that in our case, our agency, IMEPS, said, well, if you want to build something or design something, you have to go through us and we're going to help you. And if you do not know how this works, you can come to us and there are guidelines. And as you know, ISO and also INOR made free standards for everybody to look at if they wanted to check them. So I think this was a great opportunity for learning. What I think it's important in that case, as in some case we were discussing also with Stefano, is we need to make sure that we don't harm people, so that anything that we do, even though it might be an AMBU mechanical ventilator, that it's something that will not harm the patient. So that is something we have to come up to say, wait, let's make sure that doesn't happen. But at the same time, we also need to check what is the situation that we have right now. In many cases, we can go on with standards and say, okay, this has a CE mark or not, so we can buy it or not. But in some places, for example, in Spain, let's say we have 3,000 ventilators or ICU beds. It's okay. We want another 2,000, but we already have 3,000. In some countries, they do not have more than 120 beds. And so anything that could help them solve that issue could be better than nothing. Now we have to find that ethical point of what is good or bad. You were talking about this issue about ventilating more than one patient with one ventilator. All the companies, when all this popped up, said, look, this is what you can do with my device. So I think many of those things are, right now around the world. But what we need to do with all this information, as Hussein was saying, it's very good that we have information, but we need to be able to process that information. There is so much information. I can see, for example, Elliot saying now, yes. There is so much that you're telling us. Sometimes we're not even able to process all that. So we have to take a step back, relax a bit, and see if we are able to process all that in order to move ahead. This is what I think are some of the learnings of this. We can talk also about the changes of as some of you were talking of manufacturing and procurement. I can see right now that some countries are trying to buy stuff, let's say ventilators or monitors, and when they want to get to the purchase order, they say, wait, I haven't seen your 485 certificate. And when you check that, you say, hey, wait a second, this company is not allowed to manufacture this kind of stuff. They should be manufacturing maybe masks or something else. So there is a lot of people trying to work on this, and you see them blocking all this process. If we had some kind of, process where all these companies were already cleared by those agencies that we have in our governments, we will be able to say, well, this company is already in this list or in this database. This product from them is already in that database. We should be able to buy it. Right now, we are doing all this work all by ourselves, or different teams in different countries are trying to do this. And I'm not going to say wasting, but using a huge amount of human resource and time to try to get to an answer or to a product. And when we finally get to that, the product is not there anymore, or the price has doubled. So we need to find other ways, creative ways to solve that, because what we see at the same time is our countries are not able to solve that.
Okay.
These are mainly my, the learnings I see from this. I leave the questions open. If there was a way to make things faster, I have no idea about. I mean, I have several ideas, but I'm not sure.
Claudia, we need to move. Thank you.
Yes.
Very, very important comments about procurement and sharing with some ethical answers to the question, who is getting what?
Yeah.
We'll move next to across the ocean to North America, to Mexico City, Mexico, and to Roberto Ayala.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Well, 3 lessons learned. One, we need to be better prepared for disasters. It can be possible that every time that a disaster strikes, we are improvising. We need to be better prepared for disasters of any kind. Second, all of a sudden, governments and health authorities and authorities in general have found that exists something called biomedical clinical engineering. Now it's a moment. I think that once that we have rise from the darkness, I think that we need to take care of, to take this opportunity to be better coordinated with authorities and governments, because they have found that we are certainly useful in these kind of situations. Third, we have found that it's possible to have open source materials. I think that that's something that we have to also strengthen, that to have better repositories of material, because we have found that is really possible. So let's take this opportunity as well. Now, about the challenges, at least from here, from our side in this part of the world, it's a shame that some authorities haven't used as in its full potential expert units like Cenetec in the case of Mexico, or they have been using us very late in the process. I think that if a country has an expert unit that can be of help, they should be using it. The second one is that we have to say that biomedical and clinical engineers certainly have been very, very aware of the situation. They have been very, they've been ready for action. But I think that we need better coordination. We need to move to the same line, because otherwise we're going to dissipate our efforts. So I think that we are right now needing a better coordination between the biomedical clinical engineering community, at least on our side. And finally, the third challenge is that we need better and proper guidelines, especially for this situation regarding building ventilators, open source, low cost ventilators. There's been still some kind of confusion regarding specifications and standards and so on. So I think that we need to have final guidelines on what to do, when to do, if some kind of ventilator is better than other, and also obviously for any other type of devices. So I think that we need to have better and more harmonized guidelines. That's all on my part. Please take care of all of you and keep safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you, Roberto.
And let's move to US with Doug Dreps in the Center of America Sister of Charity System. And Doug, if you can, in addition to overall description of the challenge, address a question that came up. What do you do about PM during this period? Doug?
Yes, thank you, everybody. Unfortunately, my video is not working, so you will not get to see me. So when we looked at the, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So right away, when we started seeing cases at the hospital and we turned units into COVID units, I instructed my team to cease doing any kind of preventive maintenance because I did not want to put them in any harm in any of those units. So of course we would go up there and do any kind of repairs as needed. So that was very important. And this, you know, our COVID units change by hospital, by unit every day. So keep my team updated, very important. And as far as ventilators, you know, respiratory did not want us to do any more PMs on ventilators during this crisis because they did not want to have one down. So at our system level, they quickly formed a command center. We get new policies. It seems like every day there's a new policy as we're learning through this. But they made a giant dashboard of all the ventilators. We added all the rental ventilators. We got ventilators from veterinary clinics. We got them donated from colleges. Just all kinds of ventilators coming in. So it was important that we had to put all these into our database, and they used our database to show all the vents we had throughout our 42 hospitals. And the goal there was, if we had to move vents from one state to another, we would do that to help the needs wherever that is. So we're still in the middle of this, as everyone else is. So that was very important. We did that. We tracked beds. We looked at opening up new in our garages, trying to make a 350 bed med surg unit. Thankfully, it looks like we will not have to do that. So that's very good.
Very good.
Yeah, so that was the key there. Challenges or things learned when they wanted to change areas into negative pressure area rooms or the whole unit. There's some units, it was just pretty impossible for them to do that. So I think that's something they'll look at more. You know, and the challenges I think we all face was with supplies. One of the earlier panelists talked about just in time. That's the way we all work. So when it came to PPE, they instituted all PPE was going to be assigned and tracked, and they wanted us to use it, especially those who aren't in the direct with dealing with the COVID patients, but to use it at least 3 days. But we're still tracking this, and we just went to wearing masks. Now everyone's wearing them in the hospital just yesterday. So that was things we're facing. And then just keeping up with, as we pop up new units, we've moved monitors. And so nursing didn't want to have to go in the rooms because we have telemetry patients and our hub is in another location where they watch the monitors. So a lot of manufacturers have the web view. So I talked to nursing about that. So I got them loaded in and did a little quick PowerPoint so they could use it and see the heart rate and the SpO2 without having to go in the room and check on those patients. So that's been a big help. And then one thing I do want to say is nursing is, I mean, I've seen our hospital system just work so great together, and nursing is actually, they'll call us to go into a COVID room, but they'll stop us, make sure we're dressed properly, but they'll say, tell me what I can do to help troubleshoot this so you don't have to go in the room. And so that's been just excellent,
Doug, thank you for recognizing nurses' attitude these days. That's very important. And also the heads up about using the web-based view of monitors from outside the isolation rooms. Very, very neat solution.
Yeah, I'm still rolling that out to other hospitals. So.
And putting the PowerPoint training for user at the same time. Very nice.
Right.
Okay, let's move to our last presentation for the day, Bruno Roma from Brazil. Are you there, Bruno? Kaliron, is he on mute?
Yeah, check, see if he's on mute.
Okay, let's open the little time that we still have to question and answer among the audience or to the panelists. Please let us know by raising your hand.
Yeah, Yadin, I believe Bruno's can speak. Go ahead, Bruno, if you can. Bruno, you're unmuted.
Alô, Bruno, você tá aí?
Yeah.
Okay. Bruno is logged, but he needs to be in any list to share his screen.
Okay, he needs to share. Okay, let's give him the screen.
I just allowed him to talk. Let him try. Go ahead, Bruno.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, nice. Okay, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much for this opportunity to show our learned lessons and difficulties here we are facing in Brazil. So I asked some colleagues to answer those questions about the learned lessons and the difficulties, and we received different lessons that they are that they could learn, and the one that is most evident is about old equipments and broken equipments, that because it's very fast to repair and return to use, then purchase new equipment. So we expect that we have around 3,000 equipments broken all over Brazil, and we are repairing all of these equipments. And actually, we started a workforce in Brazil with Ministry of Health and Ministry of Economy and our Brazilian Society of Clinical Engineers, and plenty of volunteers and schools of technicians. So a very huge workforce to repair all of those equipments, and it's being very, very good for every hospital that is participating. The second learning lesson, it's about stock of repair parts, that we know that most of the, and I heard other colleagues saying the same things about the stock, and and for sure it's we need to keep more stock than we have today. And maybe the third, it's about review disinfection procedures that maybe not every professional, especially in clinical engineering, was so so precise or follow the book, And about difficulties, it's the most difficult now is to purchase new equipments, purchase stock spare parts of the ventilators and patient monitors, and so to build new facilities to receive those patients. The second one is to lead the team to maintain the control about anxiety or fear about the virus, and keep the team focused to support the nurses and the doctors. And of course, that we are facing abusive prices of equipment, lack of contingency plan that make everything harder and take much more time to put everything together to establish a good facility to care those patients. Here I take some pictures of just all the equipments and old that we are repairing, and I believe that it's it that I would like to say to you.
Thank you very much, Bruno. And AB Clan, wonderful society there in Brazil. I know we're a little over. We're going to go just a couple more minutes. Luis Fernandez, our webmaster, had put out this note that hopefully all of you can, and we'll get this to you, on how to subscribe to the Hacking Coronavirus weekday daily update that Clinical Engineering Division has started about 10 days ago. We also have a CED notifications WhatsApp group that has, as Elliot said earlier, over 100 involved. So if you can send Caleroy and I your mobile number, we'll get you onto that. I know there's some hands up and there's some questions. Yadin, back to you.
Great, thank you. So we were looking for raising hand to answer questions. I will not take the time to summarize the great information we exchange, except to say that obviously everybody's pointing at the need for collaboration and better cooperation at national and global level. Everybody's talking about how can we keep up with the standards and keep up with certification of overnight manufacturing, and how can we respond to the individual needs of isolation and yet deal with equipment, as Lee showed in the new architecture structure on a temporary basis. So around the globe we went, and now for the questions. Kali, can you identify those who raise hands?
Yeah, I can tell you it's Michael Ching and Mohammed from Bangladesh.
So Mohammed has his hands for quite a while, so let's go there. Bangladesh?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, as we are progressing for the ventilator production locally in Bangladesh, one of our giant company, Walton, is supporting us, and Medtronic has already came here and opened up their all resources. But specifically for Medtronic, maybe we don't need the certificates again, but for those who we are producing now locally ventilators, then how we will get the certificates immediately for our locally produced ventilators? This is the question number one. Question two is that we have found that there is a scarcity for the bill of materials. Several small things maybe we need in huge quantity in the coming 7 days. Then how our global partners can help us out from this situation by supplying this bill of materials, especially for producing the ventilators.
Okay. Anybody on the faculty wants to take the first one about how to get certification for local manufacturers? And the second question, how can a small country get supply needed to support equipment? Let me take the first one. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Adriana. I forgot to tell you all that we will, or I don't even remember, but we will place the catalog for all the devices that are the priority medical devices for COVID in the WHO website. And then countries can request what they need. So you go to the catalog, you select the ones that you need, because there will be a United Nations pandemic supply network that will be providing these technologies. So we will be procuring for 120 countries. So that's for the part of the purchase of the devices. This has to come from the governments over.
And Adriana, what the criteria that you will qualify it?
Oh, that is a huge problem, Yadin, because we have already, and just referring to what Jitendra says, and Roberto also, we place the international standards. So, but if devices that do not comply with international standards, then UN and others are asking us to have like a procedure, how to approve others that do not have CE mark, FDA approval, or others approval. And so we are doing that, developing that document now, so that we can see how how we can approve those devices. So it's not written in a paper now, but it has to be written by Monday next week. Over.
Okay. Jitender, if you're still awake in the middle of the night in India, a question from Toby Clark about, will the specification of the ventilator you described going into manufacturing be available globally?
I'm pretty sure he had to leave to go back to the front lines.
Okay. Next.
But yes, Yadin, he said he will.
He said he will. Okay, thank you. Next question.
Although, Yadin, there is a concern that some of the production in India will stay in India. So we have similar concerns in Europe and similar in the US. So most of the manufactured in those regions is staying in those regions. It's not.
That's true, Adriana, but I also spoke to Jitender yesterday, and India's creating diplomatic agreements with countries, and masks, PPE, as well as ventilators are planning to go to other countries. I know Israel's one of them, and there's others.
Yeah.
So it's not the final word yet.
No. This is the status as of now, and this will change every day. So yes, absolutely, it will change, hopefully. Thank you.
So a comment that I see a lot on the chat box is that people trying to come in and they cannot because we have limit number. It's a good problem to have because so many people want to participate in this dialogue. We are recording it. We will make it publicly available as soon as we can process it, and we will post the site where it will be available.
And Yadin, many people were able to go to the YouTube site and watch the show and send us their questions. So I'm glad it's working out somehow.
Good. Okay. We will post it on several places. I will offer Global Clinical Engineering Journal site as another way that we reach to more people with the recording.
Yadin, if we continue, and there, Kathy and France sent some questions to Adriana. And Adriana, I don't know if you can see the chat there. There's 4 questions they sent.
Okay.
While you're getting there, what is the French version of COVID priority devices released? Not mentioned in your newsletter for April, and some others.
I have not been able, sorry, I have not been able to read all the questions, but
that's fine.
The French version, well, we have to upload it in the medical devices website. I have not been able to do that. Of course, once I can do, everybody can see it there, but you can also post it in the IFMBE CD. We are really super overwhelmed in WHO. And then we will be updating this list. The one that was translated to Greek and to French has now been updated. So we need to update it and then reprint it, resend it again.
Okay.
Talking about this.
Michael Cheng, I believe you had your hand raised and you want to talk about competencies in clinical engineering, new demand.
Yes, thank you. In fact, what I posed that in question, and I think you can answer that later on. But I like to see that Libin's presentation gave me the impression that he has good recognition from his healthcare facilities. And this is what clinical engineers should try to achieve, to play a bigger role within the healthcare facilities. It would be interesting if Libin can share with us his job description or organizational charts as an example.
Yeah, Libin will do that. He's a good friend, and also a good student. Both Tom and I taught a lot about clinical engineering in China, and would work with him to get that release, Michael.
Thank you.
Tom, I think
Yes.
now I can read the questions. Calibro just put them for me. So can I respond very quickly?
Please.
Yes.
Okay, for the French version, Maurice Page sent it to all the African countries, and you can send it to all. So that is fine. The second, the open source innovations to better face is difficult to navigate, and who MB. Yeah, we're inviting innovators to send their innovations to WHO to have a process similar to the compendium, so that we can have a validation process. We were talking about the innovation working group in WHO. There are other pages for innovations that I send also in the newsletter that you can send them to. There's one that says COVID innovation that is on USAID. Can WHO urge the national certification to quickly evaluate these innovations? Well, we're into that, but it is the regulatory agencies that have to assess those innovations. We had a call today, like 2 hours ago or 3, with the IMDRF countries, and they are trying to assess all the innovations as fast as possible, having emergency use listing, as you have seen from FDA or other regulatories. On open source ventilators, for instance, maybe next week, but not yet. We have to go to the regulatory agencies first. Is this a global or regional database of suppliers? No, we will put the catalog of the equipment, but all the suppliers, not until we receive the biddings and then we approve them, then we can put them there. So are there any reprimands or structure for countries that have confiscated planes full of medical equipment? Well, there is, countries are trying to see for themselves. So there are some countries that are banning exports or staying with the technologies for themselves. So others are helping to send it abroad. And there is something that called the Pandemic Supply Network that is using planes from the World Food Program to deliver these devices. And also the World Customs Organization, the World Trade Organization is having special tariffs and special things for medical devices for COVID. So I'll keep informing you through maybe Tom and Kali Roy so that you all can have this information. But thank you very much for everything. And yes, we need a lot of your help in the different countries to help us. So we'll send a request for you and information. Thank you.
Let's try to get a few questions, answer more. Abdul from Libya, I believe, has his hand up. Abdul from Libya. Okay.
We'll try to make sure everybody's unmuted. And George Bordeaux, I think you saw, from Ghana.
George Bordeaux from Ghana.
Hello. Hi, everyone. This is George from Ghana. I have a quick question. The first question was actually asked by Dr. Ajabu through the YouTube link. And he's asking, he said, one major challenge in Ghana is the recommendation for disinfecting ventilators and other devices used in COVID-19 ICUs. So is there any recommendation for disinfecting the ventilators and other devices used in COVID-19 ICUs? And my second question is in a way, and I think Adriana answered in a way, but I want a confirmation here. In Ghana, the Ghana Society of Biomedical Engineers have assembled some engineers to develop ventilators to support the COVID-19, but
George,
one of the challenges.
Let's go and answer your question. Let's go and try to answer your question.
No, we don't have any in WHO or program on disinfecting ventilators, but we would certainly like that. We have a collaboration with all of you to maybe make a proposal of that. And secondly, for the assembled ventilators that are locally assembled in any country, we have to go through our the local regulatory authorities, in this case from Ghana, for approvals. We're talking with regulators from the sub-Saharan countries. I meet with them 2 or 3 times per week. Today we're meeting with the regulators from Pajo region. So I think something that needs to continue, and maybe Yadin, this is a general recommendation to all clinical engineers, is to try to liaise with the regulatory authorities from your countries. And I would like to propose, if this is possible, that maybe I have like a half an hour or something of a general invitation to solve general questions, maybe in a weekly basis. And I'll just send the link, and then we can have comments or responses from the people, because there are not enough, and many things are coming every week. There are different things.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Well, we need to move to another question we got from Emmanuel Koumo from Haiti, asking about, are there any training for basic repair on simple medical equipment like concentrator, BiPAP, syringe pump, monitors that can help immediately in this situation? I don't know. Tom, do you have any answer on the training?
I think, Adriana, you're calling for that, and CED is happy to help you work it up.
Yes, exactly. We need help from many clinical engineers. So if you have a training, that we can put it there. We're also asking the industry to help us put something, and then ECRI has already released some of the PM things for some of the COVID most essential routines, maintenance routines. So I think it will be a great help from CED to help us organize and compile this together, and I can post them in the WHO website. Thank you.
And Roberto Ayala has also good training in Mexico with Senetec and can help with that. I don't have to tell you, Adriana, about Senetec.
No.
Okay, we need to bring that to a closure. It's over an hour and a half that we are on the air, and over 120 people were participating. First of all, I would like to thank the faculty for staying up in the middle of the night, in the middle of the afternoon in Europe and Africa, in the morning in US, Mexico, and Brazil, and to Adriana that took the time to come online and address all the questions one by one. The session is recorded. We will make it available. And Tom, any other final comments?
Again, over 500 people, I believe, have tried to participate, and there's a wider audience. So we'll try to get to your questions. We'll certainly get the YouTube out by tomorrow and try to tee up the questions and get answers over the next week. And I love Adriana's offer to perhaps have a half-hour briefing every week. So let's go from there.
Global CE COVID-19 Day is come to a closure. This is the first, and according to the interest you are showing, we probably should come up with the second one pretty soon. I appreciate your engagement and the question. I thank you for all the work you're doing. You are the silent heroes. Tom, it was a pleasure to co-host that with you. All the faculty, thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule. Bye-bye for now. Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe.
Yeah,
Thank
Stay
you.
safe. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy Easter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And
Thank you.
Passover.
Yeah.
Hey, thank
And
you.
Passover
Happy Easter.
and Ramadan and everything.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right, so.